Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Bold predictions for this Missouri program heading into 2024. These are largely kind of my favorite episodes to do during the offseason where we get the opportunity to kind of call our shot heading into 2024. At the end of the day, we are all college football fans. We have certain beliefs in certain players or particular position groups. Now's our opportunity to kind of call our shot heading into 2024. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section, some of your bold predictions, players that you are believing in heading into the 2024 season. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Missouri fans. It's no secret I've had a blast talking about this program. I am a believer in this Missouri program heading into 2024. I can't thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown during this offseason. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. A lot of fun Missouri game predictions that we are going to be doing during the 2024 season. And without further ado, let's get into this one. Now, I want to start with a bold prediction that, at least in my mind, not enough people are talking about within this Missouri team heading into the 2024 season. You take a look at the national media, how people are talking about this Missouri program. A lot of the attention goes to quarterback Brady Cook, wide receiver Luther Burden. Now, do not get my words twisted. I am massive believers in both of those players. I think Luther Burden, the best wide receiver in the country heading into 2024. Brady Cook, one of the better quarterbacks, not only in the SEC, but in the country as well. What makes me believe in this Missouri team heading into 2024 is what they have on the offensive line. I think as SEC fans, we all know that having a good quarterback, good wide receiver, that certainly helps in terms of winning football games in the SEC. But if you want to reach the pinnacle of this conference, you have to be really dang good along the line of scrimmage. I look at this Missouri offensive line and say, not only is it one of the better offensive lines in the conference, I think it's one of the better offensive lines that we'll see in college football heading into 2024. My bold prediction, 4 offensive linemen are NFL draft picks in the 2025 NFL draft. Now let's start kind of picking through this offensive line. I want to start at the right tackle spot, Armand Membou, who, Membou probably plays guard at the NFL level. He's an elite tackle at the college level. You go back to the 2023 season, you'll look at pass pro, say over 430 pass pro opportunities. He gave up 2 sacks, only 12 quarterback hurries. And although he is very solid in pass protection, as those numbers reflect, Armand Membou might be one of the better run-blocking offensive linemen that we see in college football. You look at Missouri, what made them, at least in my mind, so special in 2023 was it was a very balanced offense. Yes, they could push the ball down the field with Brady Cook, Luther Burden. They also could run the football exceptionally well. And I think a large part of that had to do with their tackles, Javon Foster, Armand Membou. I'm a massive believer in Armand Membou. I think he's the best offensive lineman on this Missouri team. Then you look on the inside, say Cameron Johnson played extremely well in the SEC in 2023, over 430 pass pro opportunities, only 2 sacks, 14 quarterback hurries, a kid that has played just so much football during his collegiate career. Look at the center spot, Connor Tolson, a very, very solid center in the SEC. Then you look at the left side, say you're bringing Marcus Bryant from SMU at the left tackle spot. This is an NFL caliber tackle that's played over 2,300 snaps during his college football career. Go back to last year, 385 pass pro opportunities, only gave up 1 sack. And then Caden Green, the only guy that cannot go to the NFL draft after this year because he's only a sophomore, played phenomenal. As a freshman for Oklahoma, he could play guard, he can play tackle. I look at this Missouri offensive line and say, I feel really good about this starting 5. You have multiple guys returning from last year. You had 2 really talented guys in the transfer portal. Yes, Brady Cook, Luther Burden are phenomenal football players. This Missouri offensive line is going to be a force in the 2024 season. Number 2 bold prediction, Brady Cook, all SEC quarterback. That kind of pushing the envelope in terms of bold prediction because I don't know how bold that is. You look at Brady Cook in 2023 was one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. Now, my purpose of bringing this up is I kind of think Brady Cook should be in that conversation of those top quarterbacks in the SEC, right? Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Brady Cook. I think those guys kind of make up that top tier in the SEC. You could also throw in a guy like Jalen Milroe. I think it starts with Brady Cook being a gamer. You go back to the 2022 season, it was not always pretty with Brady Cook, but he kind of made it happen. Then in 2023, it looked awfully pretty. You start diving into the numbers and say not only were the stats really good, right? 3,300 yards, you got 21 touchdowns to 6 interceptions on a 66% completion percentage. Those numbers are phenomenal in the SEC, but then you start diving a little bit deeper and say 9.6 yards average depth to target, one of the more aggressive quarterbacks in terms of pushing the ball down the field while also maintaining a 66% completion percentage, only throwing 6 interceptions, a 47% completion percentage, 20 plus yards down the field. I think Brady Cook still has this MO of, kind of just a scrappy quarterback that can get the job done, which is certainly Brady Cook. I think that's one of the things that we all love about Brady Cook is he's a gamer. He's going to make it happen, whether it's pretty, whether it's ugly. But in 2023, it was very, very pretty. And Brady Cook kind of asserted himself as, one of the better quarterbacks, not only in the SEC, but in the country. So you start looking at this Missouri team, say, really good offensive line, a top quarterback in the SEC. Number 33 bold prediction here. Luther Burden leads the SEC in receiving yards. Again, I don't know how bold that is. What I love about Luther Burden is the amount of different ways that you can get Luther Burden involved in an offense where you look at a lot of other top wide receivers. I don't know how complete a wide receivers they are. They're either really good at certain things, but not great at others. You look at Luther Burden and say, one, he is elite with the football in his hands. We know Coach String can do a phenomenal job to Luther Burden, not getting him the football in space, letting him operate. Luther Burden last year, 727 yards after the catch, 20 missed tackles forced. Luther Burden is a premier playmaker with the football in his hands, but on top of that, he's a guy that can separate in his route trees, can win vertically. You look at Luther Burden and say, what makes him such an elite wide receiver is, yes, not only is he an elite athlete in the SEC, I think more importantly, he's one of those wide receivers that checks off almost every single box that you are looking for in a wide receiver one. A guy that can operate in the slot, can operate in the boundary, can work vertically down the field, but also is a guy that excels with the football in his hands. And so it starts getting really hard to take away Luther Burden in this offense. And a lot of people might argue this passing attack only goes through Luther Burden, which is definitely not true. I mean, you got Theo Weiss, Mookie Cooper, Marquise Johnson. This is a very talented wide receiver, and Brett Norfleet at the tight end spot. You got a lot of different weapons in this offense, but what makes Luther Burden so special is it's really hard to take him away because he can do so many different things within this Missouri offense. He can be the yards after the catch guy. He can be the wide receiver that's winning vertically, attacking the deeper third. I think Luther Burden, Brady Cook, it's going to be one of the better quarterback wide receiver duos that you see not only in the SEC, but potentially in the country. Now, you go to the defensive side of the football. My bold prediction for this Missouri program on defense is that Darius Smith leads this Missouri team in sacks. Now, you look at Missouri on defense, I think the biggest storyline is, can they be elite on the defensive line? You have to replace a guy like Darius Robinson, who was, for lack of better terms, just kind of a freak show for this Missouri defense. I think Coach Drink did a phenomenal job in the transfer portal. Now, you return some guys like Johnny Walker Jr., who kind of got overshadowed, but played some phenomenal football for Missouri in 2023. I think what Missouri's looking for is that elite edge rusher that when it is third and long, do you have a guy that can pin his ears back and go get after the quarterback? I look at Darius Smith and say he could be that guy, very similar to some other Georgia edge rushers that didn't get an opportunity. They go transfer to another school, hit the ground running. We saw it in the spring game. Darius Smith has a little bit different level of juice in terms of the get off the line of scrimmage. I think what's so fascinating about this conversation is you're looking for edge rushers to step up and kind of be elite for Missouri. You got a couple of different names, right? Darius Smith is my personal selection. If you wanted to go with Zion Young coming from Michigan State, I wouldn't argue. If you wanted to go with the true freshman Williams Nwaneri, I probably wouldn't argue with that either. So although you're maybe saying, hey, does Missouri have that elite edge rusher coming off the edge. Maybe not a guy right now, but we fast forward to the middle of October. I think we could be talking about Zion Young or Darius Smith as those kind of guys. And what's so fascinating is both of those guys are only going into their junior years, their third years of playing college football. That's normally when you start to see those kind of guys really put it together as elite edge rushers on the line of scrimmage. Last bold prediction for this Missouri program: two defensive backs become all SEC guys. I think a lot of casual college football fans will look at the Missouri secondary and say, well, you lose Abrams Drain, you lose Ennis Rackstraw. How good is this defensive back room going to be for Missouri? And I think a lot of Missouri fans are sitting there and saying, well, one, we returned some really good football players, Joseph Charleston, Dalen Carnell. I would even talk about Torino Pride Jr., another guy that's only going into year 3. We've seen him play some phenomenal football during his time, was a former top 50 national prospect coming out of high school. You got Melvin Burks Jr. going into his second year, played really well as a true freshman. I look at the secondary and say, yeah, okay, you lose Chris Abrams-Drain. You lose a guy like Ennis Rackstraw. Those guys were really good football players. That being said, this defensive back room, this secondary still is very, very good on paper, and you kind of just trust Missouri to develop these guys in the back end of this defense. Those are my bold predictions for this Missouri program. Would love to hear from you guys in the comments section. A lot of different ways you could go about making bold predictions. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.